don't do that. So he summarizes it this way. If you could let me sort of do it my way. He says, everything you saw in Jesus Christ was true since the beginning of time. In other words, Jesus did not inaugurate a new reality about God. He just simply showed you what God was always like. That God was like Jesus, exactly like Jesus. God had always been like Jesus. We did not know that, but now we do. That's the 1 John chapter 1. 1 John chapter 2 is basically when God goes about forgiving sins, He doesn't just forgive the elite people's sins. He forgives everybody, everywhere. That Jesus didn't just die for the Jews. He died for the whole wide world. And then basically John ends all of his doctrinal sort of discussions, and essentially the rest of the book is what difference does it make if you're the rightest church in Birwa or the Sunshine Coast? What difference does it make if you're the rightest group of people in town if you're not known for being the kindest group of people in town? And so this is a room where it's Wednesday night, you're in church, so I'm under no pressure to be an evangelist, and that's good because I'm not really a good evangelist. I'm assuming everybody here is a fully devoted follower of Jesus, right? And so you're here because you're in some form on team or in some way volunteering, or you're making this church go. And so I want to put some language over our two sessions tonight on what that actually is all about. What are we actually trying to do here? And I would say, ultimately, for my first time here, I think we need to go as basic as we can and then be as profound as we can around that basic thought. And that is this: we are called to this community to be a community of love. That's what we're called to be. Now, once again, if I say that way, no one can disagree with that. No one can go, no, we need less love. The problem is that if we don't have language around what that might look like, then it could be willy-nilly and quite frankly quite confusing. So I want to look at John's observations to the first century church about what that might mean. This is 1 John chapter 3. If you could bring that first slide up for me. This is 1 John chapter 3, verse 11. Here it comes. For this is the message you heard from the beginning. We should love one another. Do not be like Cain, who belonged to the evil one and murdered his brother. And why did he murder him? Because his own actions were evil, his brothers were righteous. Do not be surprised, my brothers and sisters, if the world hates you. Keep going. For we know that we have passed from death to life because we get all of our doctrines straight. Nope. We know we passed from death to life because we figured out where the mark of the beast is. Nope. We know we passed from death to life because we did a certain ritual and prayed a certain prayer at a certain moment, at a certain time, in a certain posture. We know that we've passed from death to life because we love each other. Right. Anyone who does not love remains in death. And anyone who hates a brother or sister is a murderer. And you know that no murderer has eternal life residing in him. So let's explore this with some language. Next slide. So essentially, John is pointing out that when you enter into some form of love, we're experiencing some version of eternal life now. And conversely, when we engage in hate, we're experiencing some version of death, darkness, and decrease now. For John, eternal life is not something that starts after you die. Eternal life is something that starts here, now, today, and we either engage it with life or we oppose it with death. See, for us, life and death are static images. You live, you die. You're either alive or you're dead. This is how we think of the words life and death, because words matter less than how we picture words functioning. So when someone says life or death, the Western world either thinks of literal living and dying, or they spiritualize it and they think of heaven or hell or saved or unsaved. Well, actually for John, life and death are realms that you can move in and out of. Ancient Jewish thought, which is where John lived, was that life was considered a choice. That in one sense life could be literal, like you're either living or dying. But in another sense, it's, I present before you today life and death. Choose life that you might live. Light and dark. Choose to be in the light as he is in the light. Obviously a metaphor. No one chooses when they're born, and no one chooses when they die. This is a metaphor for what it means to live in a way that moves towards wholeness and away from disrepair. And death is the opposite of that. It's engaging in behaviors that move us toward disrepair and away from wholeness. So let's deal with this right up front. Next slide. See, for us, the question is almost always how to have life after death. What happens after you die? How do I have life then? But for John, the question is how to have life before death. He's talking about how do we live here, now, today in a way that brings life here, now, today. See, we get obsessed with life after death. Like, if I died tonight and you saw it, and you came to my funeral on Friday, and then the next Sunday I showed up at your service, I would ruin the service, right? It would go something like this. Oh my God, Shane Willard's back, right? Get him a mic. Church is canceled. Somebody just came back from the dead. Get the man a mic, right? We're going to have a Q&A with a guy who just rose from the dead. Well, what would the first question be? It wouldn't even be, are you okay? Are you thirsty? It would be, tell us what happened. Solve the mystery. What happens after you die? If you want to make $10 million, all you got to do is claim to have an after-death experience, write a book about it, lots of people will buy it. Because in our world, that's what we're obsessed about. Not in Jesus' world. Not in John's world. Jesus told people, I'm going to die and rise again. He predicted his own death and resurrection, and then he pulled it off. This guy is something else. This guy lives, dies, and rises again, comes back from the dead. And how much does he talk about heaven? None. How much does he talk about hell? None. I find that unbelievable. What I find equally unbelievable is no one asked him. This guy comes back from the dead and no one goes, ha! You're back. What's the afterlife like? What's heaven like? What's hell like? We heard you preach there. Did it work? How'd your altar call go? Did you clean out hell, you rascal, you? You know, when you came back from the dead, tombs everywhere emptied and people walked around. All this weird stuff that they could have asked him. Nobody even mentions it. This guy comes back from the dead and the response is, ha! You're back! Are we going to take over Rome now? Is it now that life in the kingdom is coming here? See, for us, it's all about life after death. In this book, it's all about life before death. How do you live here, now, today? The word John uses is metababakemen, which is a long Greek word that just means to change bases. Here's what he says. If you're finding your life on the basis of death, and you want to know that you've been moved to the basis of life, your first decision, it's not your only decision, but your first decision is to choose to be a people of love. So if somebody was to pin me down and say, what is Church on the Rise about in Birwa, on the Sunshine Coast? Well, what is this thing all about? Well, I would say, ultimately, you're a community of Christ-centered followers who are seeking earnestly to intentionally build a community of love. Now, once again, why would we do that? Because that's the key to entering into life. Let's see if we can put some more language around this, because this is such a big topic, we need language. Next slide. So, John says one entry point into life is to commit to loving each other. Let's see if we can come at this from another angle. Central to Christianity is seeing all of life as a gift. Everything is free, and I mean big time free. I mean the big things are free. Things like life, free. The fact that you're literally alive, that's free. None of us deserve that. None of us introduced our parents. None of us gave them amorous feelings for each other, right? None of us deserve to be alive. And because of where I am, I'll say it this way. None of us deserve where we were born. And like everybody in this room right now is an Australian citizen or a resident. Or you're sort of breaking the law, okay? So, or a criminal, right? So, everybody here is either like an Australian citizen or a resident. None of us deserve that. We woke up this morning in a country with motor cars, paved roads, stores that prepackage food for us, clean water in our taps, machines that do washing, other machines that do drying, world-class healthcare right down the road, and it's largely free or at least affordable. Nobody in this room lives in fear of going bankrupt if you get sick. Not one person in this room. Why? Because we woke up today in Australia. When I hear Australians complain about Australia, let me be blunt. Where you gonna go? Like, seriously, if you can't make it here, bro. Right? Where you gonna go, man? Life's free. Breath, another free thing. Everybody take a deep breath in. And then out. That's free. For now. At some point they will tax that. Right now, free. And you know what? Every single person in this room takes breathing for granted because you don't have to think about it. The only people who wouldn't is if you have asthma, if you have pneumonia, or emphysema, or some sort of untreatable lung disorder. Those people don't take breath for free. But for most of us, we take breath for granted because we're not thinking about it until breath is taken from us. And when a free gift is taken from us, the value of it just lifts. You suddenly are very aware how important the value of that gift is. Like if you've ever choked, right? If you've ever had your breath taken from you I choked once. It was a first impression. I'd never met this person before. We went out to a restaurant, and I choked on a piece of calamari. And it was a horrible first impression. She didn't call back. You ever heard the phrase, it went down the wrong pipe? Right? And so it was that times 500. Like, suddenly I couldn't get any air at all. Now think about that situation. Suddenly you have breath, and then the next moment you don't. How important is breathing? Pretty important. Suddenly nothing I thought mattered. Like money, right? How much money would I have given to be able to breathe? Everything. It just didn't matter. The first impression didn't matter. How I appeared in public didn't matter. I was making noises I didn't know was possible to make. Why? Because I couldn't breathe. And all of a sudden, I was suddenly okay with things I normally am not okay with. Like an Asian man I've never met putting his fingers in my mouth. Normally not okay with that, right? I normally would be against that. If a man I've never met said, I'm going to put my fingers in your mouth, I'd normally be like, no, let's not do that, right? But not that night. That night, this little Asian dude came out of the kitchen, never met him before in my life, put me in a reverse headlock, took his fingers and shoved it down my throat. And I loved it. I was like, oh yeah, get you some of that. Why? Because he was pulling the thing out of my throat so I could breathe, right? It's free. Forgiveness is free. Like no one in here is this your story. You know what? God was really grumpy with me, and He wasn't going to forgive me. And then I said a magic prayer at the right moment, at the right time, in the right posture, and I gave the right amount of money, and God was like, you know what? I wasn't going to forgive you, but now I will. Like, it's free. Resurrection's free. And we take resurrection for granted because it's happening everywhere, right? It didn't just happen once. Resurrection is a fundamental way of seeing the world. Death is leading to life everywhere. Everywhere we look right now. Even on your hand, that skin is 28 days old. And we know that intuitively. This is why when it gets colder and you wake up in the morning, you have dandruff on your pillowcase. No one's panicking. No one's like, oh no! I'm losing skin at an alarming rate. At this rate, I'll be dead in 28 days. No. You just know resurrection is, renewal is happening everywhere. All these things are free. Now, if all these things are free, then certain things don't belong in the light. Next slide. Like if life's a gift, then greed belongs to death. And death doesn't belong. If all of life's a gift, you can't hoard all the gifts to yourself. Hoarding, entitlement, as a hyperbolic example, murder, like treating someone as if they have less value than you. Like there's a way that the kingdom works in love, and it's people who see all of life as a gift, so these things don't belong. Complaining doesn't belong. Like this is the best the world's ever been. I realize we're in a rough season right now, but seriously, if you're 1,000 years old, this would be your 8th one of these, right? And now we have electricity, sort of, right? That have ventilators and treatment plans and advanced medicine and motor cars and paved roads and stores that prepackage food for us and money. Like according to Forbes magazine, disposable income has increased 285% since 1965. Like, that's a lot. According to Forbes magazine, the generation turning 19 today has more money available to them by the age of 19 than the previous 4 generations before it combined, right? And so, some of our more mature brothers and sisters in the room, they're like, that's right. And all you gotta do is talk to a 19-year-old. Ask them, what's your plan, you know? A 19-year-old will look at you with a straight face and say, you know what I'm thinking about doing? Thinking about taking a year off and walking around Europe. Who's got that kind of money? Evidently they do. Like, I was born in 1976. We never thought about doing that. My dad's generation definitely didn't. My grandparents' generation thought you got a passport at Walmart. That was not something you did. As far as I know, my grandparents' generation never once ate out. And it's not because they didn't want other people cooking them food. It's because they couldn't afford the luxury of having people eat out. We have so much money today that you have people making a full-time living, a full-time wage, permanently removing women's facial hair. My grandmother didn't have that. Should have seen him. It was unbelievable. So we complain about where we are in the world. And listen, there's nothing compelling about just focusing on the one thing we don't have and losing sight of everything we do. Let me see if I can give an example. I used to be on staff at a big church. This is years and years ago. And One of my jobs was I was the single adults pastor, right? So Monday nights, all the single adults got together. I loved it. We had a lot of fun, except for single adults are notorious for wanting the one thing they don't currently have, namely a spouse. So half my week was spent hearing this. Shane, I want to be married. I want to be married. I just want to be married. Shane, I want to be married. Shane, pray for me to be married. Shane, I want to find a wife. Shane, I want to find a husband. Shane, I want to be married. Shane, I want to be married. I want to be married. Shane, pray for me to be married. And I'm thinking, no, you don't. Like, can y'all back me up on this? If you can't handle the stress of being single, right? You don't have a prayer on earth handling the stress of being married. Like, are you kidding me? A single person's prayer tickles me. It goes something like this. Dear blonde-haired, blue-eyed, English-speaking Jesus. Shane here. I'm 27 years old and I'm stressed. Let me tell you about my life. I get to do what I want to do. When I want to do it. I don't have to run it by anybody. Nor do I have to feel guilty about doing what I want to do when I want to do it. Most importantly, Lord Jesus, nobody on this earth is spending my money other than me. But despite all these things that I know sounds awesome, I'm still stressed. So I'm asking you, Lord Jesus, to entrust me with one of your daughters in order to make my life harder. What? The problem was, at the same church, I was the church psychotherapist. Because my master's degree is in clinical psychology. True. So, and what's 90% of church counseling? Marriage counseling. So half my week it was, I want to be married. Shane, I want to be married. 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 The other half of the week was, Shane, we want to be single. We want to be single. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. I can hook y'all up. The married people wanted to be single. The single people wanted to be married. It's unbelievable. And no one wanted to bloom in the field they were planted with the gift God gave them. Like if all of life is a gift, if it's Christmas and somebody gives you a gift, or you wouldn't do this. If you give somebody else a gift, and they open that gift, and their response is, really? Is that the best you can do? If somebody responds that way to a gift, is the problem with the gift giver or the gift receiver? It's always the gift receiver. Here's my question for us before we go forward. How have we responded to the gift God gave us? He gave us life and breath and forgiveness and resurrection and passions and personalities, and let most of us be born in Australia. Let all of us live in Australia, a land of motor cars, paved road stores that prepackaged food for us, clean water in our tap, machines that do washing, other machines that do drying, world-class healthcare right down the road is largely free. How have we responded to that gift? Do we ever look at God and go, yeah, but my life's stressful. I want somebody else's life? Because there's nothing compelling about being focused on the thing we don't have. Like, the single adults, I used to just tell them, there is nothing attractive about being focused on what you don't have. It makes you look desperate. Right. The most attractive single adults on earth are not the ones believing for a spouse. They're the ones waking up every day saying yes to the infinite possibilities God has for their life. They've got the throttle all the way to the ground, and then one day they look around and notice somebody else is doing it with them. That's a different thing. And look, if you're here tonight and you're married, be the best married couple in the room. Right. What other choice do you have? Pray for a comet to come to earth to bring you sweet relief, right? And if you're single, be the best single person in the room. Be the person saying yes every day to the infinite possibilities God has for your life. If I could just I'm going to take a 3-minute aside here, because I can. And I want to talk to, if you're here tonight and you're a single adult, I want to talk to you just for a second. And you married people at the end of this, you better say amen. Because I'm right about this. First, be the most attractive single person in the room by waking up every day saying yes to the infinite possibilities God has for you in your current field. That's first. Second, you do not need to find the one. That's dumb. You need to become the one you're looking for is looking for. That's 2. 3, put your list away. Right? It's embarrassing. Makes you look a little bit... Have you seen these lists? Pastor Shane, pray for me. I've got my list. This is who I'm believing for and a spouse. You ever seen these people's list? Like there was a guy a while back now. He said, Pastor Shane, would you pray for me? I've got my list. I'm believing God for a wife. I said, let me see your list. You should have seen this list. I am positive this woman does not exist. She was blonde for the sake of appropriateness, curvy. She was smart. She was successful at work. She had money, and she was emotionally low maintenance. All in one power-packed package. I said to him, mate, That tells you where he lived. I said, mate. Mate, this girl's a 10. He said, of course she's a 10, Pastor Shane. When you believe God for a 10. He's the God of more than enough. He's the God of the possible. I said, okay, Captain Cliche, listen, she's a 10. Here's the problem. You're a 4. Right? Like on your best day, you're a 4. Girls like this don't marry people like you. Girls like this marry brain surgeons. The last thing you need to do is have God bring this woman into your vision. She wouldn't give you the time of day. What you need to do is become a 7 yourself, lower your standards 30%, and something might happen. Right? Fourth. Never, ever ask someone to change while you're dating them. You're already getting their best behavior. If someone's sincerest attempt to impress you fails to impress you, leave. Here's what you do when you're dating. Pick the thing about them that annoys you the most. Multiply it by 5. Add some occasional horrendous smells under the covers, and you've got marriage. If you still love them, you probably found the one. And all the married people said, yep. Let's move forward. Next slide. The issue is, since we receive what we don't deserve, we should treat others the same. Here's my first question. Do we treat people as they are worth or as they deserve? Love is a function by which we choose to intentionally treat someone as they are worth and never as they deserve. So if we're going to be a community of love, once again, if I say we need to be a community of love, everybody goes, yes. Yes, but what does that mean? Well, in John's world, what that means is acknowledging all of life as a gift. And since we get what we don't deserve, we should intentionally treat others not as they deserve, but as their worth. That's how Jesus described God, by the way. He said, if you know what God's like, look at birds and flowers. They do nothing to deserve it, but God feeds them and clothes them because they're worth it to Him. That God treats people as they are worth and never as they deserve. This is exactly word for word John's point in the next verse. Check this out. Next slide. This is the very next verse. And this is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down His life for us, so we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters. In other words, you get what you don't deserve. Loving people, treat people as they are worth, never as they deserve. And then watch how He applies it. If anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need, but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? In other words, if you can see a need and know you can meet the need, in other words, don't be stressed about needs you can do anything about. If you can't do anything about it, it's probably not on your life to solve that problem. But if everybody just met the needs they could see and know they could do something about it, if you see a need and you know you can meet the need and you purposely turn your back on that need, how can God be in that? I love the way John does this. It's so rabbinical. He just leaves it as a question. He doesn't tell you. You wrestle with that. Dear children, let us love, not with just words or speech, but with actions and truth. For this is how, keep going. For this is how we know that we belong to the truth, and we set our hearts at rest in His presence. If our hearts condemn us, we know that God is greater than our hearts. He knows everything. If our hearts don't condemn us, we have confidence before God, and receive from Him anything we ask. Keep going. Receive from Him anything we ask, because we keep His command and do what pleases Him. I don't have time to go into this fully. Just trust me. The word keep there does not mean obey the command. He goes to great lengths in the first chapter. Anyone who claims to obey all the commands, that's a liar. The word keep there is an ancient Greek word that is used for a castle keep. It's a place of safety and protection for the vulnerable in the time of attack. We use that same word today in sports, a goalkeeper. Or we use it in child minding. We might say, would you keep my baby for a second? It doesn't mean to obey the baby. It means to protect the baby. What John is saying is that we are called to protect the command. Right. And which command? See, people sometimes ask me, because I preach for everybody. I've done the Seventh-day Adventist conferences. I've done Catholic conferences, Baptist conferences. I've done a few state ACC conferences. I'm doing the national conference for Equippers later this year. Like, that's a broad spectrum. Some people get skeptical about that. They're like, well, do you believe anything? Where do you draw the line? You know? Like, how can you just hang out with everybody? You know? Well, I draw the line on keeping the command. And watch what he says. This is His command. To believe in the name of His Son, Jesus Christ, and to love one another. That's what we should protect. In other words, it's okay to discuss doctrine, but let's defend love with everything we got. That's where we draw the line, right? Why can I hang out with everybody? Because we are all protecting the same thing. Belief in Jesus and love one another as He commanded us. Now, there's a line in there. And that line reads weird in English. If anyone has material possession and sees a brother or sister in need and has no pity on them, how can God be in that? What a strange line. Now, the most basic Bible study you can do is look at different translations. So let me show you a few different translations of that line. So in the NIV it says, if you see a need, you have material possessions, and you know you can meet it, and you have no pity on them. That's the NIV. The NLT says, show no mercy to them. I see it. I know I can do something. I'm going to show no mercy to that. The ISV says, withhold compassion from them. I know I can do something. No compassion for you. The ASV says, shut up compassion towards them. So it must be a strange word for all these translations to translate it differently. My personal favorite, though, is the King James Version. Here's the King James Version of this. Next slide. Shutteth up thou bowels on me. Isn't it great? Isn't it amazing how language has changed? In the 1600s, it was considered a good thing to open your bowels on somebody. I'd like to go on the record right now to say I would like all of you to keep your bowels shut in my general direction. But in this one case, the King James Version gets it exactly literally correct. Why? Because in the first century, the center of your life was not your heart. That's a relatively modern way of speaking. Like if you really love somebody, you might tell someone you really love, I love you with my heart. Or you might even say, I love you with all my heart. Or I love that with all my heart. You would never say that in the first century. Never. Because the center of life in the first century was your bowel. It was this area. The reason is their understanding of medicine was so primitive, they just know babies come out of there. So if babies come out of here, where does life originate? In your bowel, in your stomach. So they would say, in the first century, the center of life was never the heart. So let me give you an example. If you were dating someone in the first century, and you said, sweetie, I just love you with all my heart, she'd be like, weirdo, get away from me. The beating thing in your chest is so weird. Why would you love me with your heart? You're a creep. It's weird, right? But if you're dating someone in the first century and you really love them and you wanted to tell them, what you would say is you'd say, sweetie, oh man, I just love you with all my bowel. Well, if you said that, she would be like, oh, you move my bowels too. What's that? Let me show it to you. Let me show it to you in the original language. Okay, this is the original Greek. I know this is gonna make me sound like a nerd, but my minor in college was ancient Greek, so I could actually read the Bible in Greek, which I know. Anyway, so let me show you the next slide. This is the original language says, if you have material possessions and see a brother or sister in need, and you klease ta splachna. Klease is clothes, obviously. Ta, the, splachna. Your splachna. Your bowel. In other words, John says, if you see a need, and you know you can meet the need, and you klease ta splachna, how can God ever be in that? Now, we would say it differently. So to be fair to the NIV, they look at that and go, that doesn't mean that today, right? We would say, don't close your heart off. Don't close your inner life source. Like if you don't close your don't close your compassion. Don't do that. So in other words, for John, building a community of love comes down to a few things. One, seeing all of life as a gift, and understanding that because we get what we don't deserve, we make a commitment to treat people as they are worth and not as they deserve. And I think that deserves its own moment of contemplation. Do we as a church treat the people coming in and we gauge them by what they deserve, or we gauge them by what they're worth? Right? That's two different things. But I would say the most basic way to live in life and love is simply this. Next slide. John's key to entering life is to open your splachna. What does that mean? It means when you see a need, and you know you can meet the need, you make a commitment to be intentional about opening your splachna all over that need. that we should be people with wide open bowels, wide open splatnas. That when we see a need, and we know we can meet the need, we live life with an open splatna. Now, great sermons are not meant to be agreed with, nor disagreed with. They're meant to be wrestled with for application. So let's wrestle for a second about exactly what we're doing in terms of building a community of love. Next slide. Do you experience God yet leave the same? Like, is that your story? Like, I don't think any of this works. I don't think any of this works. Why? Because I engage in all of it and it doesn't work. You know what? It might not be that you're a bad person. It just might be that you're engaging things with a closed splatna instead of an open one. We would say a closed heart instead of an open one. Maybe we could say it this way. Do you relate to someone who's hard to love? You know that person at work you just wish God would go ahead and take them to heaven? That person. Maybe if we engage them with an open splatna instead of a closed one, the results, even if the results don't change, the way we interpret the results might. But the most obvious application point for this talk is, do you see a need and you know you can meet the need? What if we alleviated ourselves from the pressure of ever feeling anxiety about things we can't do anything about? How freeing would that be? How much time would we save from scrolling through Facebook things about people ranting on about something no one could do anything about, even if they were telling the truth? What if building Church on the Rise really is this simple in concept? Nothing simple, but what if it's this simple in concept? A group of people who don't just believe in Jesus, but allow Jesus to be the fundamental way of seeing the world. And what that means is that we make a commitment to treating people as they are worth and as they deserve. And as a group of people, we're intentional about when we see a need and we know we can meet the need, we live life with an open splatna to meet the need. That would be a loving community. Which leads me to this. Is there a need and you know you can meet it? I have spoken to your pastor zero about this. But I'm sure this church has a few financial needs. Why? Because it's a church. It's trying to meet needs of the community. And in a room this size, it is statistically improbable that there's not one of you that could give $1,000 to whatever mission you chose. And let me be clear, you'd give $1,000 and you wouldn't feel it. You'd never miss it. You wouldn't even know it was gone. Like 5 minutes after it's gone, you just wouldn't even know it. What are you going to do? Like, open your splatna, man. In a room this size, it's actually statistically improbable that there's not one that could do 10,000. 100,000. And let me be clear, I'm not just picking willy-nilly numbers. I'm talking about a number you could give and you would not miss it. Like, you give your net worth goes from 8.9 million to 8.8. What will you do? Right? Now you might be thinking, Shane, seriously, I don't have any money. I've got like $4. Seriously, I got $4. Okay. Then hear me. You're not the financial answer to anything. You probably need a job. Right? But here's the one thing we all have the same amount of. Time. Every one of us has the same amount of that. Right? So let's take money and pretend it doesn't exist. Let's put it over here. Does not exist. I'm assuming that on Sunday morning there's a children's program. Why? Because children need age-appropriate education. Right? So, I don't know who runs the children's church, but I know I would love them. Why? Because without them, children would be running around in here. Right? And it just disrupts the whole service. Right? And children shouldn't have to listen to me. I'd be the worst children's pastor in the history of ever. Imagine me trying to teach 7-year-olds. Hey, boys and girls, we're going to talk about splatnas. Let me show you this trick. Pull each other's fingers. No, what? You mean to tell me that this church doesn't need a few more blue card carrying people to be kind to children? What's our excuse? I can't show up early and be nice to children? Come on, man. Open your splatna. You say, Shane, no, seriously, I'm telling you, I hate kids. They're disgusting. They're actually awful. Okay. You're probably not our children's person. I don't know who runs the youth stuff here, the teens, the young adults. I don't know who they are, but I know they're important. Why? Because in 25 years they'll be running the joint. And we'll be complaining about where they take it. Right? But we can't sit around and complain about where the next generation takes the world if we're not going to be a part of molding their values when it's moldable. Like, what's our excuse? Like, you can't give a couple hours a week to mold the values of the next generation? Come on, man. Open your splack note. I'm assuming there's music here on a normal Sunday. And I'm assuming it's good. Here's the thing. What if you're the best musician on the Sunshine Coast? I can promise you this. If you're the best musician on the Sunshine Coast and you have a good attitude, there'd be a place for you. Right? And let me be clear about this. If you're not sure if you're good or not, get it checked out first. Right? By somebody not named Mom. Seriously. Right? What are we going to do with our talent? I see a need. I know I can meet the need. Are we going to close our splat nuts or open it? Say, Shane, you don't know me, man. You don't know me. I'm a jerk. No one would want me on their team. Okay, a couple thoughts about that. One, if you know you're a jerk, stop being a jerk. That's first. Secondly, even if you're introverted and sort of basically don't like people, you could still be a sound person. There's a wall separating you from the whole room. Seriously, turn knobs, make it sound good. If you're really introverted, they'll put you behind a camera. You can be like a camera ninja. Seriously, there's always a place for us to build our team. Because here's the thing, right? What we are here to do is we are here to build a Christ-centered community of love. What's that mean? It means that we see all of life as a gift. And we're so aware that we've gotten what we don't deserve. So we make a commitment to intentionally treat people as they are worth and never as they deserve. What does that mean behind that? It means when we see a need, and we know we can meet the need, we intentionally, every time, open our splatness all over that need. So my brothers and sisters of Church on the Rise, may you continue building the thing God's called you to build. A community of love, by seeing all of life as a gift. Being intentional about treating people as they are worth and never as they deserve. And whatever you do, when you see a need, and you know you can meet the need, be people who intentionally live life with a wide open splatna to meet those needs. Thanks for letting me be a part of your night. Grace and peace, everybody.